So another big data trend is this idea of constant capture. So when you think about how you use data creation in your own life, you're making a sort of a choice, right? You're choosing to share a photograph on Instagram, for example. You're choosing to tweet about something. But as we go forward, that's going to flip over to where the generation of data becomes the default. That's what happens automatically, and you actually have to choose to opt out of sharing your data, which is a pretty big change. So you could think about something like this. This is a little thing called narrative. It's a little thing a little larger than a postage stamp that you wear on your lapel. And what it does is it just automatically takes a photograph every 30 seconds, all day, every day, of whatever is going on around you, and you actually have to choose to stop it. Otherwise, the default is it takes a picture of what's going on around you every 30 seconds, all day, every day. Now, whether that becomes generally popular or whether it's just something that quantified self geeks like me are interested in is an open question, but I think it really represents an interesting turning point, which is when the collection of data becomes the default, right? Rather than you choosing to capture something, that's what automatically happens. So we're starting to see more and more of this, and the reality is that it's starting to become more personal, more intimate, more close to us all of the time. So for example, I was at a conference recently, and I was on a panel discussion with this guy who'd had a chip put in his hand right here so he could unlock his door without having to use a key, which I guess, never worry about losing your keys again, right? So that's, again, an extreme example, but we're starting to see that kind of thing more and more. So a more practical example of how we're seeing that more and more is something like this. This is a company called Proteus, and they make sort of smart digital medicines. So what they do is, you see those pills, they have a tiny little chip on top of them, which basically has just enough data collection abilities that when you take your medication, it actually communicates to a thing that you wear on your coat that you've taken your medication, and it also has a certain amount of biometric data, like heart rate and the time that it landed in your stomach and things like that, right? So the idea here being that on a practical level, compliance with medication is a really big problem. So the idea is here that your doctor or whoever will know that you've taken your medication. But obviously, as with basically everything I'm talking about today, there are huge privacy concerns and huge kind of free will concerns about all of these kinds of things. And of course, even if we've agreed to some of these means of collecting and sharing our data, sometimes it can be kind of creepy when we see it. I don't usually have location enabled on my phone, but when I do, obviously, I know that location data is being gathered about where I'm going and what I'm doing on my Android-based phone, and I can go to my Google location history and see where I was on a given set of days, and it's kind of creepy, right? Even if you know that that's going on, you can suddenly see it in a different context, and it suddenly seems creepy to us. Or you look at it and you think, well, what would somebody make if they saw those few days of data, other than the fact that I seem to drink a lot of beer? So there's a sort of subjective aspect to how we think about our privacy, where even if we know that data is being collected, sometimes it can just be like hairs on the back of your neck.